All right, everybody, what's up? It feels like it's been a minute, and outside of the Mongolorian, it has been a minute. I hope you guys are doing well today. Today is July 4th here in the United States, which is Independence Day. So they're, firing off fireworks and all this stuff. But today is also the 10-year anniversary of Dragon Ball Super. But wait a minute, Danny. Wasn't it July 5th, 2015? Yes, but in Japan right now, it's July 5th, 2015. In fact, episode 1, Dragon Ball Super episode 1, started at 8 p.m. our time Eastern, which matched up to their Sunday morning. So we used to watch Dragon Ball Super on Saturday nights, but it was their Sunday morning. So today on the stream, I just wanted to reminisce on kind of a chill stream. We're going to reminisce on 10 years of Dragon Ball Super. The anniversary is today. We're going to talk about the manga, the anime, the movies, all types of shit. So I hope you are doing well today if you're with your family. If not, that's okay too. And I'm going to have a little sip here of water for the working man, paying them gimmicks in the mail called bills. I'm going to go ahead and bring my special guest on. He is the first friend that I ever made starting Geekdom 101. He's the first Dragon Ball fan friend that I made online that is still around. And he's I think he's the first guy I ever collaborated with. I'm pretty sure of it. Jay is here. Yo, Jay, welcome back.
Hey guys, how's it going?
How are you?
Pretty good. It's winter in Australia right now, so it's getting pretty cold over here. But that's why I'm wearing a jumper. But yeah, it's good to be back. I made quite a few videos for a couple of months. I'm just taking a break. I'll jump back in eventually. I make content when I feel like the inspiration strikes these days, just not kind of on a schedule. That's all.
Yeah, I ever since Daima ended, I had a lot of plans to do streams, but I just never got around to it because I have a bunch of other things going on outside of Dragon Ball. You know what I mean? Other projects that I'm working on outside of YouTube. So it's been like 3 months. And it's weird because, you were the first person that I met. And I've known you now for 10 years. And ever since we met, there's always been something. Like when we first met, Resurrection F was right around the corner. And then Dragon Ball Super started in July. And then, of course, you and I would get on Skype and we'd talk about it and just have a good time. Then we'd bring in other people. And then so Super comes to an end. Then the Heroes promo anime starts. And then the Broly buildup begins. So we have the Broly thing going on. Meanwhile, the manga, Dragon Ball Super manga is still running. Then the Dragon Ball superhero film comes out in 2022, and then in 2022, the manga stops for a little while, with the Black Frieza cliffhanger, and then after the Black Frieza cliffhanger, we have the superhero arc. And that was coming out for about a year. I thought it was a big waste of time for the most part. I mean, there's different chapters. So this guy Trey in the chat said winter. Yeah, brother, I have some information for you. The earth is round. So anyways, no. And so we got the superhero manga, right? And then came Daima. Now, here we are, July 4th, 2025. No announcement for any incoming projects, any impending projects. So I'm in a weird state, man, because I've got videos that are done. They're finished. They're ready to go, right? But I'm not going to upload them yet because there's not that much interest in Dragon Ball right now. So I'm kind of stacking them that way when something does come around, if it does. If not, I'll drop them later this year. Then it's worth dropping them. But I'm saying, like, we haven't had a situation like this where there's been no like announcement or no hype for anything. We're just kind of in limbo right now. What do you think about that?
I think we got spoiled kind of for nearly 10 years, it's been a really good decade for Dragon Ball. I remember when we started talking in 2015 and Super was announced. It was very exciting. A little bit of that excitement was culled when we saw the quality of the first two arcs. No one really cared about Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F arcs, because even to this day, if I watched Dragon Ball Super, I'd rather watch Battle of Gods, Resurrection of F, and then start on, I think it's episode 29, maybe 28. 28, yeah. I'd rather start there because there's no point watching the first two arcs, in my opinion. But it's been really good. And the friends we made in those 10 years, the amount of content that's come out and things to talk about, not all of it's been great content, but it's still content nonetheless. And yeah, I think it was inevitable that eventually it was going to come to a pause or a hiatus. I just hope it's not too long, because Dragon Ball is a bit of a cash cow, and I know they know that. So hopefully they don't leave it too long. Maybe they're trying to time it so they can peak the interest back up and then release more content.
Okay, like when you say things like maybe they're going to, like, I've had those conversations, man, for the past 4 years, and like I can't even have it anymore because nothing logical makes sense. Like, what I mean by that is you'll hear them say shit like, well, maybe because Toriyama passed, maybe that's why, or maybe they're trying to figure everything out. But that's never been the case. Just that, because especially when we found out that they were going to do Daima without Toriyama, that was a very surprising thing. But it really wasn't surprising, because if you've been following this YouTube channel and you've been watching all the videos, which I know not everybody can do, it's a lot of content, right? I have talked about how people don't understand Toriyama's role in modern Dragon Ball is not the same as it used to be. He's not coming up with everything. He's more like, or he was more like a guy who would check things and then approve them. He would write a manuscript, then others would adapt it, but it wasn't like he was overseeing everything. But he did oversee the manga chapters. He did oversee the Daima, for sure. Daima was something he was very much involved in. But besides that, the days of Toriyama doing like what he used to do ended in the 90s. But I wanted to ask you, Jay, man, I want to go back 10 years. So do you remember? Okay, so Dragon Ball Super gets announced. We see that first image. There's the fat Beerus, who we now know as Champa. Do you remember what the feeling was among us, bro? Because I remember there being a lot of excitement because we wanted more Dragon Ball, a new Dragon Ball show for years. But remember all the speculation, dude, like what they're going to do and if they're going to move arcs around. And remember how you and I used to clown? We used to clown on people that called it Dragon Ball Z Super.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it. I mean, in a funny way, I almost don't blame people looking back in hindsight for that, because if you think about it, they were advertising Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Dragon Ball Z Resurrection of F, and then Dragon Ball Super comes along and redoes the arcs under the Dragon Ball Super umbrella. So I understand the confusion in hindsight, but yeah, we did used to have a bit of fun with that. Before we move on from the whole where Dragon Ball Super is going in the future, I'll just say one thing. I wonder if people sometimes forget that Toriyama said he was done with Dragon Ball in the 90s, and then they went on and made Dragon Ball GT without him. Like, yes, he came up with some character designs and things like that, but he wasn't really around for Dragon Ball GT. He wasn't interested. So just because he's passed away, I don't think that's going to stop Shueisha and Toei from making more content.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not. What's going to stop Shueisha and Toei is Shueisha and Toei, which I absolutely hate those companies. Jay, did you happen to, because we haven't talked about this, did you happen, and I have not made a video about this yet, but I've talked about it in streams. Did you happen to hear what happened on a recent podcast with Torishima and Toriyama's editors about how Shueisha handled the passing of Toriyama?
No, I try not to look at too much of that stuff. It's kind of, I don't know, it's more a thing. I don't want to watch that stuff and get disappointed or upset with the disrespect in a way, because it is kind of disrespectful to the legacy of Dragon Ball and to Toriyama. Really what they should be doing is coming together and doing what's best for the franchise and for the fans, not bickering over who gets to take control of it. It's really pathetic, really. So I try not to watch too much of it or listen to too much of it.
No, that's fair. And again, I haven't made a full video on it. And I just have to, I've been very disconnected, bro. I got to get reconnected. My brain is in a different place. So basically they interviewed all of Toriyama's editors. It was on the Koso Koso podcast, which is hosted by Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, who worked alongside Toriyama, and Torishima, who is Toriyama's editor, his first editor, but also the guy who discovered him. And he's been with Toriyama his whole career, basically. He's almost like a mentor to him, like a father figure. And they were bitching because when Toriyama died, Shueisha didn't even put, like, in the manga, like in Jump magazine, they didn't even put like a page to tribute him, like nothing. And they thought it was, and they were open about this. And you got to remember, Torishima used to work for Shueisha, and he straight up was like, these people are disrespecting this man. How are you going to not even make a tribute, even like a little page in your magazine? It doesn't have to be like 10 pages, although they could do that, but like something to talk about what the man has meant for them. Jay, do you realize that when you take Dragon Ball and Dr. Slump, both of those together, do you know how much money Toriyama made for fucking Shueisha for Jump magazine, bro? Like, can you imagine the amount of money?
Yeah, I know it's going to be millions, probably hundreds of millions, I would imagine. So maybe even billions, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't have the numbers, but I mean, you get my point. And how are they just going to not say anything? Like, look, most YouTubers like at least talked about it. You know, I made a couple of videos about Toriyama's passing when it happened, that I made that documentary about him that came out on his birthday last year. But not everybody has to do that. I just like doing historical pieces. That's what I do best. But I mean, most of us talked about it. How is the company that he put the manga out for not even going to say anything?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. In hindsight, do you remember? I want to go back 10 years.
Yep.
Do you remember how we used to talk about, well, the Battle of Gods arc is going to be different because they can do different things? And we saw that, like, so I remember I think you talked about it a little bit, that one episode where it looked like Vegeta might go Super Saiyan 3 because of the camera angle that was from the back. And we were thinking about all these ways they could change the movie and make it better. Like, I remember me and Juan were talking about like showing more of Frieza's training and giving Resurrection F a nice second act. And they did nothing like that. They did nothing like that, bro. Instead, they gave us what I thought was there was a couple things I liked more in the anime version, but it was kind of ass, man.
Yeah, the first two arcs were really disappointing. It wasn't until we started getting new content that it was exciting. I remember the episode where Vegeta. I think the episode's title was Vegeta's. It had something to do with a mutation off memory, and that led people to believe that he was going to transform into Super Saiyan 3, which we didn't end up getting until Daima many years later. But yeah, I remember thinking with the resurrection of F-Arc, the best thing that the anime did is off memory. They took out the line about Frieza training in earnest for 6 months and reaching a power level of 1.5 million. That's probably the best thing that the anime removed and did. But
I agree.
I mean, the Tagoma stuff where Tagoma was replaced as the guy who kind of took on the Warriors, that wasn't really interesting for me. Ginyu coming back was kind of a gag moment. Vegeta got to kill in an ironic way. Vegeta ended up killing the entire Ginyu force, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, it wasn't until I remember when it piqued my interest. Champa showing up in the Resurrection of F-Arc was where it first piques your interest.
At the very end, when Vados blows to the planet.
Yeah, and then when they speak about the fact that there's 12 universes and Champa is a god from a different universe, that's when you realize that there's 12 gods and 12 angels. That was where it really piqued, I think, the audience's interest, because they realized the scale or the potential of the show with that simple concept.
Yeah. So this guy in the chat was saying, why did anybody catch that line? We did catch it. I made multiple videos about it. So no, and I agree with you. When he showed up, and then in the next couple episodes, we got the 12 universes. The thing is, and we got more of an explanation. But remember how before they revealed the 12 universes, because we really didn't get to see them until later, but we got to see glimpses here and there. Remember how there were all these theories about how they might actually be alternate, like, versions of Universe 7. So one is like GT and one, you know what I mean? Like, and it wound up just being totally different. It wound up just basically being different planets, and they all had like little themes, and that's about it. Like, it wasn't all that special to begin with.
And the way they explained it is, obviously you've got your two universes that equal the number. Was it the number 12 or number 13 or something?
13, yeah.
13, yeah. So 6 and 7 were kind of twin universes, two sides of a coin. Like, it was interesting. That's really for me where where Super became extremely interesting, because prior to that it was all kind of regurgitated content from the movies. So, and I think it was probably like that for a lot of people watching. And I think also it didn't shift immediately, but you did see a slow change in the quality and a shift in the quality of the animation and the art. There was still some badly animated episodes after the resurrection of F-Arc, but they were fewer and further between. They started putting more effort into the animation and the art after the first two arcs.
Well, Toriyama bitched about the animation, and he had a right to. I mean, I think he was right about that. I think he complained, and little by little they definitely upgraded it. It never got to Daima levels, but except for a couple scenes, but not like the consistency of it all. Now I want to move ahead a little tiny bit, because when we got to the Universe 7, like, you're right, that's when Super really started. We got the hit stuff. We got the return of Kaioken with Kaioken Blue. Then we have the introduction of Zeno. So at this point, they're bringing back a lot of stuff from the old show, and also introducing new things like Hit and the god of the multiverse, which is of course Zeno. And you're right. At that point, I think everyone was dialed in. I think we were all super dialed in. But do you remember the night of the first episode of the Future Trunks arc, SOS from the Future? Do you remember what that was like, man? I think you were still making content at that point.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I made content until Dragon Ball Super finished its run. Yeah. I remember the promotional poster for the Future Trunks arc. I think it was released in the was it the Jump magazine? They released that promotional image.
That
for the
picture with the Goku Black smiling. Yeah,
Goku Black kind of looking over his shoulder. That's the first memory of it.
Dude, I'll never forget that day, because I stayed up late and I woke up at like 8 a.m. and I got up and I saw that image and I found out it had already been out for like 4 hours. And I
Mm.
was like, fuck, because I wanted to be the first one to cover that.
Yeah, it's a
So
bit
I
tough.
was late with it.
It's tough when you live in America and you're in a different time zone to Japan.
That's one thing I will tell you and everybody else. Dragon Ball Super did negatively affect my health a little bit because like I was very, very much lacking sleep at that time because I would stay up late, especially on the nights when there were leaks coming out from V Jump and episode titles and all that. I had
Yeah.
to stay up. I had to wait for Yonko Productions to get what's his name, bro? Ken Zyro to translate it. And I remember I would do the video, right? I would upload it, and I would just knock out. I mean, but I was so driven though, bro. Like I didn't give a fuck about sleep because, like, to me, this was my dream job. We can sit there and bitch and moan about Dragon Ball Super's flaws, and there are many of them, and I'm sure we'll talk about them today a little bit. But Dragon Ball Super changed my life for the better, man, because yeah, it was hard work, but I'm not afraid to work hard. Plus, it did affect me negatively, so maybe I would change things if I did it now. But I was hungry, bro, and Dragon Ball Super got me to a place financially that I never thought I would be in. Like it changed my like I literally like went from like I don't know, I can't go into numbers, but like you know what I mean? Like it changed my life. I was able to buy a house and pay it off. I was able to like go to Japan. Like Dragon Ball Super fulfilled a lot of dreams that I've had since I was a kid. So I can never really hate it. It's just that looking back on it, there were a lot of issues. And I think that by the TOP, it was fine. But wait, I'm rambling. Let's go back to the night with Goku Black when he killed Future Bulma. Do you remember that night, bro?
I do. I think my earliest thoughts on the Goku Black stuff was, oh, here we go. They're definitely pandering to the fans with the evil Goku stuff.
And
That
bringing Trunks back.
that's where I knew that they were listening to people, not just in Japan but overseas, because there were so many people who for years that said, "Oh, I want to see an evil Goku." Well, they got their wish, and it obviously happened again later down the line with Broly. But that was my earliest thoughts. But yeah, the night Bulma died, I would say that kind of to me demonstrated a shift in the tone of Dragon Ball Super. The Future Trunks arc, while it has a lot of flaws and it can be poorly written through parts of it, it definitely is the darkest arc of Dragon Ball Super. It has a different tone. It's the only arc of Dragon Ball. It was the first arc of Dragon Ball Super where they changed the introduction music and the episodes from kind of the upbeat music that they had. What was the name of the Dragon Ball Super? Chozetsu Dynamic, was it?
Yeah, but they kept that for the Trunks arc.
They kept it, but they changed the intro music when they were doing the episode recaps. They changed That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so they changed.
Yeah. It was like doom 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 doom. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was definitely a tone shift there, and they were trying to illustrate the darker atmosphere of the Goku Black arc, and that's why they made design choices like doing the sky the way they did, and kind of giving it that green dark hue to the sky. They didn't have to do that. You know, the episodes could have taken place during the day. I kind of got like a similar. You can tell there's a lot of inspiration from Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the whole future theme. That's what they want to make Trunks' future look like. You can really tell that.
Yeah, right. Everything. But and that was also like I'll never forget somebody sent me an Amazon Japan listing. I think it was Devil's Corpse, I think it was. And that the Amazon Japan listing showed Goku Black with pink hair. And I did a video and I'll never forget it. It was called Super Saiyan Pink. Is this Black's new form? And a lot of people thought that I was wrong.
Yeah.
Then it happened. And then we knew it happened because there were episode titles that leaked where it was called Rose or Rose. First, you
Yep.
thought it was Rose, whatever. And it's like, no, dude, my reporting on Dragon Ball going all the way back to then was spot on. Was every single thing I reported right? No, you can never bat 100 because there's always going to be changes, always going to be misinformation, especially translation issues. I remember running into a few of those. And I remember back in the Tournament of Power, there was some controversy because do you remember that fake leak about Frieza leaving Team Universe 7? Like, that was insane.
Yeah. I mean, he was going to, in a roundabout way, he kind of twice hinted that he was going to backstab them with Universe 9. And then later on, when he was fighting in the tournament against, who was it? Dispo. He was kind of saying to Dispo, if you do this, then I'll join your team. I think he said that off memory. I could be wrong. It's been so long since I watched.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if they, I can't remember exactly. You'd have to remind the guys in the comments. Would have to remind me. I need to rewatch the Tournament of Power. I honestly haven't watched it since when it first aired. But I do remember distinctly. Yeah, Frieza was talking to Dispo during their fight, and he said he was going to backstab Universe 7. Sorry, if they did what he asked. But yeah, the Rose Goku Black stuff. I love that. That was a concept that I loved. I love the whole contrast of Super Saiyan Blue with Super Saiyan Rose. That was a great design choice. The pink or the magenta, whatever color you want to call it.
Pink and black.
It just looks so good against the blue, the tranquility of the blue. It looked great. The only design choice I didn't like with Super and Super Saiyan Blue is I wish for Dragon Ball Super, because it was a different series, Goku and Vegeta wore their outfits from the Universe 6 vs 7 tournament for the entirety of Dragon Ball.
The Resurrection F outfits, yeah.
100%. That because that was, for me, they were training under Whis at the time, and that was their new mentor or master. And that to me signified the growth in their character development and what even Vegeta, for example, he never accepted help from anyone. So there's character development and growth there. And then Goku, whoever he's trained under, whether it be Master Roshi or King Kai, he's always taken on a symbol of his training with them. And that's why I liked his outfit that he had with Whis, that Whis gave him. I wish they carried that on for the Goku Black and the arcs beyond, because Super Saiyan Blue looks better in those outfits, especially for Vegeta, because of the fact that
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
The blue and the black contrasted better than blue on blue. So, and I think a lot of people share that sentiment as well.
You know, it's weird, bro. We never saw those outfits again after Universe 6. Like, we never saw them again. We didn't see them in the Tournament of Power. We didn't see them in the Moral arc. Like, those outfits just vanished. And I mean, okay, I somewhat understand wanting to put them back in their iconic outfits from Z or whatever, but I do like what you said more, that we're supposed to be in it's like a new show, a new generation. Let's keep it to the new stuff. And it was weird that they went back to that. Let me get this super chat here. We got a couple of them here I'm going to knock out real quick. Xavier says, for DBS, I only like Battle of Gods, the Tournament of Power, to the Tournament of Destroyers, and some of the TOP. I also do like Frieza coming back, even if it's nonsense. Yeah, I mean, they brought him back multiple times. For Super, I really like, anime-wise, I like the Tournament of Power for the most part. I still think that Ultra Instinct in episode 109 and 110 was the closest we got to classic Dragon Ball as far as those moments go, that emotion. I loved Ultra Instinct, and there were other moments too. And I thought the Moro arc and the Granola arc were disappointing, but they had good moments. To me, the best stuff, I mean, in my opinion, the best stuff was the movies, man, whether it be Dragon Ball Super Broly or Dragon Ball Super Hero. I thought that both those movies, they work together. You've got the Goku Vegeta story with Broly and their backstory and their fathers. You've got the father, the father figure in Piccolo with Gohan, and then you've got Pan, the granddaughter, and then you've got, of course, the son of Commander Red with a new cell. So you're kind of like both those movies existing, I think is good because you got both sides of Dragon Ball there.
Yeah.
I think the movies were the best part of Super. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll take snippets from I take snippets from every arc that I enjoy. I loved the Goku versus Hit fight was fantastic. I still to this day am not sold on the Kaioken thing with Super Saiyan Blue, because Super Saiyan Blue you're not supposed to let your ki leak out. Yet
that
Kaioken
vision too. That was not
Kaioken is a very volatile form, and I know they explained it with the tranquility of Blue helps get Kaioken under control. However, Kaioken, your ki's going to leak out. That's what it does. It amplifies your power. And then you've got the Vegeta versus Kaba fight. I really enjoyed that. The Goku Black arc, there was definitely elements from that arc that I enjoy. They really just shit the bed with the third act, the final act of it. That was where it kind of went backwards and was bad. But I felt like the first and second acts of the Dragon Ball Super, the Goku Black arc, were really good. Tournament of Power, there was lots of good moments. I loved Ultra Instinct, which they built up to over a long period of time. That was hinted at all the way back in the Resurrection of F movie. I loved Vegeta versus Topo and Vegeta versus Jiren with Goku as well. And when 17 joined in, one of my favorite moments is when you've got 17, Vegeta, and Goku all trying to attack Jiren at the same time. That was really cool.
I like the 17 and Piccolo moment, like when they first saw each other.
Kind of respect each other. Yeah. Gohan and Piccolo fighting the two Namekians from Universe 6. Like, there's a lot of moments, like just good moments in the Tournament of Power. So there was a lot of fan service. It was really good. I was always a little bitter that they gave, like, this is just me being a Vegeta fan, and I always accept that there's always a little bit of bitterness there, but I own it, so I feel like that's okay. I was always disappointed that when he beat, it was bittersweet when he beat Topo for me, because I knew that when he beat Topo, that was kind of them saying, look, Vegeta beat a God of Destruction level opponent. He's not a God of Destruction, but he's a God of Destruction level opponent. He's probably similar to Sidra or someone like that, just to guess. Oh, look, he beat a God of Destruction. But I knew once he beat Topo that he was going to get eliminated from the tournament, because that was his fan service. So I was always disappointed that I remember watching the episode where he gave Goku his energy. It really annoyed me, that moment. I get it was a really nice moment, but the reason it annoyed me is you built that whole episode up, Vegeta fighting to the point where he has no energy left. But then he gives the last of his energy to Goku, and Goku gets back up and can transform into Super Saiyan Blue. I'm like, come on, bro. He has no energy left. It was like, so that episode to this day still irks me, as emotional as it is. I don't like that. I
think that was 129.
That episode. I remember when I watched that episode, I'm like, that's bullshit, man. He spends the whole episode trying to beat Jiren, and he has no energy left, and he gives Goku energy to be the winner again. And look, Goku didn't win the arc. I get that he didn't end the arc, but he was the guy who technically beat Jiren. I know that his Ultra Instinct backfired on him, but he was the guy who beat Jiren. So
him and Frieza together.
Yeah. So, a lot of fun memories. Broly was great. I think Broly, for me, had the best build-up because they promoted it better than they promoted Superhero. So Dragon Ball Super Broly was the best movie. I know that it's not. The story you could argue is, but it's a Goku and Vegeta show. I get that.
It's not perfect, but it was a great time.
The Gohan and Piccolo movie Superhero was great because it was something different, and they listened to the fans. People wanted to see something different. That was great. However, Dragon Ball Super Broly was like your traditional Dragon Ball movie. It was all action, nonstop, good storytelling too. The only storytelling, I guess, is questionable, but it goes back as far as Jaco the Galactic Patrolman's one-shot manga, is the whole rewriting the start of when Planet Vegeta was destroyed, they've used Dragon Ball Super's Bardock
The
there.
Dragon Ball minus retcon.
Yeah, and I think everyone will take Dragon Ball Z Bardock over Dragon Ball Super Bardock. So that was the only disappointing element of that movie for me. But yeah, I think Tournament of Power onto those two movies, Dragon Ball Super really has some great moments. And obviously during the Tournament of Power, there is animation in key episodes, like when Vegeta first challenges Jiren, when Goku transforms into Ultra Instinct, where the animation actually, I would argue, is on par with Daima. It's not as obviously consistent as Daima, but Yu Yu Takahashi, man, his art style and animation is hard to beat. And Dragon Ball Super Broly also looks amazing from start to finish.
Yeah, no, I mean it was very fanboyish. They had a lot of that movie's tons of fan service, but it was definitely that was the peak, I think, of Super as far as it being in the public consciousness, because Anime Expo that year was packed. The convention that I hosted started that year, 2018. Super had ended, but there was still a lot of interest in Dragon Ball because the dub didn't finish yet. And then we had Broly coming out. So, and like you said, they promoted it. There was new stuff coming out every week about Broly. And like oh, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen, they're gonna do it this way, Nagamine's doing that. They just really did a great job. And it was international promotion. They never kept up with that. Okay, the next super chat here is from Julius Irvin. He says, yo, Geekdom, I know this is off topic, but should we be excited for Toyotaro on July 6th, or should we keep our expectations low? Well, I can't tell you how to feel, brother, but go back and watch the video I did 3 weeks ago about it, 3 weeks ago. And that will, I actually talk about that in the video. That will tell you what I think. Okay, and then Xavier says, Turles is cooler than Goku Black. In some ways, maybe. What do you think, Jay? If you could pick one, who do you like more, Goku Black or Turles?
Even if I take the recency bias out of it, because a lot of people will pick what's more recent or new, I have to say Goku.
And there's more Black too.
I think Goku Black is a better written character, with the whole wanting to destroy mortals, with a god taking over Goku's body. Turles for me was just like a copy and paste Goku, a Saiyan copy and paste Goku who's evil. And the first two Dragon Ball Z movies, in my opinion, are superior to movie 3. Movie 3 is still good, but I like movie 1 and 2 more. And I think that Goku Black just had more time to develop as a character. If Turles was done in a series instead of a movie, maybe my opinion would be different.
Yeah, that is true. And even though the Goku Black arc is pretty short compared to Z, like it was 20 episodes or something like that, it was still way more than the Turles movie. I did want to comment that the night, that first episode when Black killed Bulma, because it was the first time we actually saw somebody die where it meant something in Super. I remember I was texting back and forth with a very big YouTuber, and every 5 seconds we were losing our minds. Like as the episode was airing, we were all watching the Japanese feed. It was before they had it on Crunchyroll. It was the Japanese feed. And I remember, oh my God, people were going nuts. And I remember I hit up everybody. I go, did you watch it? Oh, no, not yet. Or did you watch it? Oh, yeah. Like it was, it really set the tone, as you said. 227060 says, been watching you since 2015, Danny. Thanks for your vids. Well, thank you for watching. And yeah, 10 years, bro. I never thought I'd be on here that long. So it is what it is. All right, let me get this other one here. This is from JD. I agree that the ROF gi should have been kept. I wish Super did more with King Kai. Well, the reason as to why they wrote him out, and I think you know this, is because Joe Giannami was really sick, and then he eventually did pass away. But it's so what happened was, instead of them just, because they had a few lines that were done by, I think, Shigeru Chiba, but instead of them just writing Kaio into the story, they sort of changed it to where Beerus and Whis kind of became Goku's new deity best friends. And so he didn't have to even do anything with King Kai after that. So, but I mean, that's what I think. That's what happened. He says could have taught more to Goku than just how the Yard Rats, just like how the Yard Rats had more techniques. I also wish Mr. Satan did more. Yeah, the comedy stuff was not as good in Super, probably because it wasn't written by Toriyama, but I do agree. Okay, I don't think that Kaio could have taught Goku more because he taught Goku the Kaioken and the Genki Dama, known as the Spirit Bomb in the dub. And those are his two strongest techniques, talking about Kaio's, and his two techniques that Goku actually made better. So I don't know if there was much left for him to learn from them. So you got Whis.
The Genki Dama was also his trigger for Ultra Instinct when he was hit by the Genki Dama. So kind of in a fun way, I guess you could say King Kai helped him reach Ultra Instinct in that way.
In a roundabout way, sure, yeah. Robert Wolf says, "Wish the Grand Priest was the villain. The TOP would have been very interesting." What do you think of? Do you remember that? Because I know even I made a video about it. People thought the Grand Priest was secretly evil.
Look, I think that goes back to when Universe 9 was eliminated, and their angel smirked or kind of had a smile on his face, and that was. Maybe that guy just didn't like being the angel for Sidra. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. If the Grand Priest was the big bad of the Tournament of Power arc, I feel like
totally different story at that point.
Yeah, totally different story. And also, how do you stand up to the Grand Priest? These guys can't even stand up to Whis. How are they going to stand up to the Grand Priest?
It would have to be every universe, or at least the top guys from every universe working together. I don't know.
Maybe.
We got a couple more here. 227 says, "Is DBS better when binged versus weekly?" I first saw the TOP arc via binging, and it seemed to like it more than those who watched it weekly. Well, watching it weekly is better as a content creator because it stretches out how much content you can do. So, like when Daima was on the air, I was making videos pretty much nonstop from beginning to end, and same thing with
speculate
Super
as well.
Yeah, you speculate. You have like here's the thing. It's more fun weekly because you can speculate with your friends and have discussions and things like that. But as far as quality, I do think binging does. I'll tell you this: binging the manga, reading the Super manga binge wise, I think makes that a lot better than every month. What do you think about binging versus watching it weekly?
Yeah, they both have their benefits. Simply from a content creating point of view, it was much better for views. Like I was never a great video editor myself, but I remember I managed to get over 10,000 subscribers because of the weekly content. So I think, from content creation, definitely weekly. But watching it with my partner, like we're watching GT right now. That's the only series she hasn't seen. It's much easier to get through the slow parts of the series when you're binge watching it, because if you were to watch it weekly, it'd feel like, the early stuff when, even though I like it, I understand not everyone does when they're going through the different universes looking for the Black Star Dragon Balls. If you were to watch those episodes weekly, it'd feel like that part of the series just drags on forever.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, if you binge watch it, it doesn't seem like as long. You've got 20 episodes, it goes pretty quickly. If you watch 3-4 episodes at a time, it actually goes pretty quickly. So they both have their benefits.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They do, but I know that for enjoyment, if you want to eliminate, like you said, the water cooler conversation, for enjoyment, I would say binging is probably best. He goes on to say, "Do you think DBS will be reevaluated like GT has? in my opinion, Sparking Zero, especially the what ifs, has made me appreciate DBS more, and I never hated DBS. Well, first of all, I don't think GT's been reevaluated. I think the people who hate GT, I don't think that opinion changed. I mean, maybe it did, but it's not a large number of people. And those who have never seen GT, I don't think that's changed either. I think with Daima bringing in a lot of GT's ideas, I think some fans are actually going to write GT off even more now than they did before. Because if they want Super Saiyan 4 and if they want like an exploration of a different part of the universe, which is, of course, the demon realm, they've got Daima. To me, besides Super Saiyan 4 and a few of the callbacks, Daima and GT are very different. The feeling of the shows is different. The vibe is different. The timing of when the show was made, even the color palette is different. So you can still watch GT. Yeah, you can still watch GT and get a different experience than Daima. I just don't see it being the same show. Go ahead.
As someone who has some pretty hot takes, like, and Danny knows me very well, I can be very on the trigger with my reactions to things when they come out. Time gives you a lot of appreciation for things. Like, I appreciate Super now more than I did when it first aired. I appreciate Daima more than I did 6-7 weeks ago. Reflecting, it allows you time to just appreciate the content, even if it doesn't always make sense. I appreciate Daima for what it is. I appreciate Super for what it is, and I appreciate GT for what it is. I'll just throw a spanner in the works, though, for everyone, because I'm a bit of a shit stirrer and I love to do this. Just remember that Super Saiyan 4 Goku in GT is stronger than Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku, because, you know, 15 years have passed. You know, he's just stronger, and that's all there is to it, because it's just further down the timeline. So yeah, just remember, Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta from GT are stronger than Super Saiyan 4 Goku from Daima.
I'm probably gonna do a video about that. I tried to do it a few months ago, but the guy who I usually do videos with was not available. Maybe I'll give it a shot again, but I don't entirely disagree with you. I think that you've made a very strong point, because I don't know if you're a shit stirrer, but it's true.
Absolutely.
The 15 years between the death of Boo and the start of GT, and remember, you have to eliminate Super from this, because for GT to make sense, Super can't happen. You know, you can say alternate universe if you want, or alternate canon, or whatever word you want to use, but GT and Daima don't fit together. So GT, Daima too, but GT and Super does not fit together. GT and Daima doesn't. GT is a sequel to Dragon Ball Z, and you can watch it as that, or you can not watch it as that and just watch Super, but you're not going to get the same experience.
I did a timeline video where I put GT in the same timeline as the movies, and that was just a bit of fun. That's all it was, speculation and fun. You know, like, Cooler shows up in GT.
Yes, he does.
Goku uses the Ryuken, the Dragon Fist. He only uses that in the movie timeline, and he uses it in GT. So that's the way I view it. GT exists in the movie timeline, and that's my headcanon, and that's the way I deal with it.
And even the movie timeline is different timelines.
Yeah.
Like, each movie, I'm not going to go into it here, but there was a video that I was going to make that I never finished, where I was going to talk about ways of making each movie fit into the continuity of the show, but it's all what ifs. Like, it's all like, what if, like, and that's the way I view the movies. I think the Dragon Ball Z movies and GT, instead of people saying non-canon, it's actually more fun to say it's a what if. Like, okay, well, Dead Zone would be, what if Raditz didn't show up on Earth when he did, you know? And then the world's strongest can be, what if Goku made it to the battlefield and saved Piccolo from dying, but then he took out Vegeta and Nappa on his own? So, like, each movie can be its own what if, and I like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because, hell, not only do people like What Ifs and Dragon Ball, a lot of YouTubers do them, but the Marvel show What If. I even said, Jay, a long time ago that if Toei were to put out a Dragon Ball What If show, that could be bigger than Super or Daima.
Yeah, yeah. What ifs or kind of like alternate dimensions? That's the way I look at it. Alternate timelines slash
Yeah.
dimensions. Yeah. Um, look at the way Whis explained time travel in the Goku Black arc or Future Trunks arc, where if you just go back and step on the wrong plant, you could shift reality or time itself, the way things happen. That's a fun concept, and you could look at the movies in GT that way.
Yep. I see that. Rami San, King of Games, says, wow, 10 years of Super. Akira Toriyama, thank you for bringing people together no matter what color skin we are. Well, I mean, I'm not going to compare Toriyama to Martin Luther King, but all right. Geekta 101, keep doing what you do, bro. Dragon Ball will live forever. Well, I'm not doing anything right now, bro. Like I said, I'm kind of on break. And I'm enjoying it. Granted, yeah, I do wish there was new Dragon Ball now. I am enjoying my time away. And by the way, speaking of Dragon Ball Z, tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Twitch, if you haven't stopped by the Twitch channel to watch Dragon Ball Z with me, it's a whole other experience. It's like you're in my living room. It's like you're at my house watching Dragon Ball Z with me. I'm on the camera. Dragon Ball Z is over here in high definition, which you're not going to get anywhere, including Crunchyroll or Funimation, because they butchered their fucking high definition versions, not the ones I have with the original audio. And it's like hanging out. It's as close as you get to hanging out.
It's so weird. I'm watching the GT Dragon Box on my Sony Bravia TV, right? Now I've got them digitally and physically, so I've got downloaded copies that are color corrected. Yeah, I've got the color corrected Dragon Boxes from Ball through to GT, and when you put those on an SSD and you run it through, you guys have probably heard of the Kodi app that runs on Android or Apple TV. You open it with the Kodi app on your TV, and they look, even though they're DVD with the film grain not taken out. And if you have a good TV with a good upscaler, like I've got a Sony Bravia, the Dragon Boxes on a high definition TV look better than the Funimation Blu-rays. Easily. Not oversaturated, right aspect ratio. It just looks perfect.
Yeah, and the thing about good quality upscales is that you can take something that was animated 40 years ago and have it look like new. Or even older. I mean, I've talked about Disney's 4Ks of like Snow White and Cinderella and how those look. And those came out almost 100 years ago, bro. Like that was like the 30s.
One of the biggest sins those Blu-rays do for me, I know not all the releases do it, but so many of those releases I know the orange bricks are notorious for it, but the Blu-rays as well to a degree, they oversaturate the colors on like Goku's orange gi, or like things like that. They're just way oversaturated, and it looks terrible. They
DNR everything too, so they wipe away the detail.
Yeah,
it's shit. Honestly, it's shit, and the stuff on the website's worse. Hold on, I had my next super chat ready, bro. I wasn't expecting to get super chats today, at least not this many. But let me hold on.
It's cool. We get to interact with everyone. That's awesome.
No, it is cool. Yeah. All right, Big Harry Knott, episode 109, 110. Or 128, he says, were the two eps of Super that made me actually worried for Goku and forget the Z finale, even if it was only for a short moment. So he's talking about how if he suspended his disbelief, and that's fine. I'm glad that it did that for you, because me and Jay and a lot of people have been talking about how one of the problems with Super is that we knew that because it was an interquel that everyone was going to survive anyways. So that kind of hurt the drama a little bit, but I'm glad they got you. So, that's a good thing that they got you.
I remember also feeling that way when Goku Black went rosé and impaled Vegeta with his energy sword. I was like, oh shit, is Vegeta going to die here? I thought Vegeta was, even though I knew he was going to come back, I thought he was going to die there.
Yeah, I mean that was another great moment. I will say this because somebody earlier was asking about like, and even you brought up time and all that. I think for me, what made me, I'm just speaking for myself, what made me like Super less is going back and watching the older stuff. When I was covering Super week to week, I was very optimistic. I liked a lot of the episodes. I wasn't really hypercritical because the entire thing wasn't out yet. Then, when everything came out, I was able to look at it again in hindsight. And it's almost like having beer goggles and having that post nut. What's that shit that Joe Rogan calls that post nut realization? Because, like, what happened was
Clarity.
post nut clarity. Yeah, I
Yeah,
went back and watched Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and was like, Super fucking sucks compared to these. And that's when I realized that even though Super was far from the worst anime, I never hated it. It's nowhere near as good as the old stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you said to me as a fan, I just watched Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and then Dragon Ball Daima, and then the show ends for me. That's fine, you know. Like I feel like Dragon Ball Daima, if you ignore Super with the Super Saiyan 4 thing at this stage, Dragon Ball Daima is a pretty cool little backstory after taking place between, you know, the 10-year time skip and the end of the 10-year time skip. If you want to ignore Super, Daima's pretty cool, and it's a pretty cool sequel to Z in a way, or
yeah.
interquel.
I call it a sequel to the Boo saga.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Especially when you find out that like Arinsu was there, like hiding, like you know what I mean? That was always a cool thing. So Cedric Mayfield says, "Hey Geekdom, did it make sense for Goku to create a Genki Dama borrowing energy from only 9 fighters to beat Jiren? That never made sense to me." Well, they were in the world of Void, so and there was only 9 people on his team. So who else? Like, you gotta remember, they weren't near Earth. They were in the world of Void, which is outside the multiverse. So he couldn't have taken energy from anybody else. Like, he only had those people.
I thought about that in the past, actually, when I watched that episode. No, the only thing I can think of, which I know, I'm pretty sure if memory, Vegeta didn't contribute to it. He refused to. But the people that did contribute to it, 17, 18, Frieza, Piccolo, Gohan, they're all pretty powerful people. So maybe he took, you know, a small amount of energy from each of them, but it was a pretty powerful Genki Dama based on the fact that it came from very powerful fighters. That's the only thing the only way I could really understand it.
Yeah, and plus he couldn't take it from anybody else because they weren't going to help him. Like even Universe 6, even if it was in their best interest, they didn't want to help him because they probably didn't trust him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't know this guy, you know, and a lot of times he got blamed for nothing.
But look at it this way, right? Just look at Frieza in the Tournament of Powers strength compared to on Planet Namek, and just taking a slither of energy from that Frieza is probably like exponentially more energy than you could take from Frieza in the Namek arc. Or how strong 17 was. Just a small portion of energy from that version of 17, way more powerful than the 17 in the Cell arc. So
way
you know,
more.
those small portions of energy all add up into one massive Genki Dama.
Yeah, and Jiren still like didn't even sweat it. So, Joe Mamba says, "Do you think Cooler will be reintroduced like Broly?" I've been asked that question 100 times in the past 5 years. I would like to see that, but there's no telling if it'll ever happen. I came up with if you go to my channel, I came up with a plot pitch on how to bring Cooler in. Check out the After Dragon Ball Super series. What were you gonna say?
I think if there's anyone who's more likely to make a comeback from the movies, it probably Cooler would be the next most logical, being he's got a connection to Frieza.
Yes, I agree with you.
I do also think, though, there is something to be said about just appreciating Cooler. Like, we got Cooler in 2 movies, and next to Broly, he appeared in the most movies. And those 2 movies we got weren't terrible movies. They were pretty fun to watch. So, and you can still go back and watch them, and there's great masters of those movies on Blu-ray. The Toei masters, the remasters are the best ones. But watching those movies, they're great. And I still enjoy playing as Cooler in like Sparking Zero or the video games as well. He's a really cool character.
Me too. It's just that Broly's so much more popular. Like he's Cooler has a lot of fans, but Broly is like, bro, people name their kids after him, bro. Like it's a different level of popularity. Damn it, I did it again. I keep pushing the wrong button and it shoots me down to the wrong place here. Hold on, let me make sure. I can't even. Oh, this thing is hard to. The screen is hard to see because it's white on yellow, and so I can't. And so but on my screen, it's even hard to see. Okay, is that from JD? Can you see that from JD?
JD with the degrees, $10.
Yeah, okay, so I do have the right guy. No, because I wasn't sure because the screen's being weird. It was all orange for like a second. I hope we get some news on if Toriyama left notes about EOZ. I think we would have got that by now, but maybe I'm wrong. Worst case scenario, they just use Dragon Ball Online and give us the different martial arts schools like Cobra Kai with Oob, Kuriza, Pan, etc. Well, that's one possible way they can go, but I mean, there's a lot of different stories they can tell. I wouldn't hate that because that's something Toriyama was involved with, and I like that idea.
Yeah.
So Xavier says, "Don't worry, Super ends with all the gods being erased and everyone loses their memory. LOL. Also, I consider Super and Daima as what ifs personally." So I know a lot of people back in the day thought that they were going to have their memories wiped at the end of Super so that GT can still happen. But I feel, Jay, that if they do that now, it's just going to piss people off because they're going to feel that they invested in nothing. It's almost like, well, the whole thing was a dream. That's like the worst end you can come up with.
Yeah, I think it would diminish. I think Dragon Ball Daima and Dragon Ball Super has more supporters, so you're better off making GT a side story or a what if scenario and just sticking with Super and Daima, personally.
Yeah. It's just, but I what I'm saying is if they reveal, even putting GT aside, if Super ends with them revealing it was all a dream, or with Whis erasing everyone's memory, that would piss off a lot of people, dude, including me.
Yeah. No, Super has its flaws, but it's definitely got a lot of merit as well, and it has in a lot of ways developed the characters in the story. The only criticism I think I've got of Super is, apart from the dodgy storytelling at times, can be the fact that they cram so much into a 10-year time skip, and Bulma still says at the end of Z in the manga and in the anime, "Oh, we haven't seen you for so long. Where have you been?" It's like, bro, you've literally seen him non-stop for the last 10 years.
Yeah. And that worked. I think that worked still when all we had was like Universe 6 and maybe the Goku Black arc. Yeah. That still made sense. But when you start going into Tournament of Power, Broly, and then Superhero, those are now near the end of the 10-year skip. Now it's like, okay, wait a minute. And then when Toriyama straight up said that the Superhero movie was like a year, or he didn't say a year, but I calculated it'd be a year, but the last story before the end of Z or whatever that we're close to it, that right there was like, no, dude, like she couldn't have, her line doesn't make sense anymore.
No.
But people are going to say it's non-canon because of that line, or people always rationalize shit when you don't have to rationalize it. Oh, well, Bulma was over-exaggerating. Oh, well, that means that Super's non-canon. Oh, well, Vegeta does Super Saiyan 3 and Daima, so it can't fit with Super, so that's non-canon. People always try to rationalize this shit when you're overthinking it.
It can also just be a retcon. It happens,
It is a retcon, but also I think people worry too much. Like the reason why I say there is no canon is because there is no canon, and people worry so much. And it's like, every single time there's a new Dragon Ball project, Every time,
the
whether it
only
be a
canon,
movie or an anime, they always say, I always get, is this canon? Is this canon? Why does it matter?
yeah, I don't acknowledge canon. It's a dirty word to me. The only canon I acknowledge is the canon that's on the side of the old pirate ships. It's the only
The
canon.
only the only
The only
canon
canon I
I
acknowledge.
admire is the one between my legs, bro. That's the only canon I admire. Jeremiah Hambros. If Whis made Goku made his tail, if Whis made Goku made his tail, will you think that would be a power up for Goku?
If Whis gave Goku his tail back, I think you say.
No, we're way past that, bro.
Yeah.
Literally, they explained that the Universe 6 Saiyans evolved past their tails. Look how fast they got Super Saiyan.
Even in GT, when they pull Goku's tail out, or when the Brute Wave machine forces Vegeta's tail to grow back as an adult, that doesn't make Goku or Vegeta more powerful. It's just it's the catalyst to unlock Super Saiyan, to transform into a new Zaru, which is the catalyst for Super Saiyan 4. So the tail has a purpose, but it doesn't make them stronger. Remember when when Goku fought Baby and he thought, oh, I got my tail back, I'm stronger now. He still got his ass whooped by Baby.
Getting your tail back does not make you stronger. Yeah. Getting your tail back and transforming into a grade ape, that's what makes you stronger.
Yeah.
You don't but if you're just in human form, it doesn't do anything for you. EA says, I like Super, but I felt it suffered from underwhelming animation. Well, for some of it, yeah. And leaning too much to the silly stuff. Z was more serious and felt more adult. Somewhat, but also I hear this a lot from dub fans. When you watch the real Dragon Ball Z, it's really none of it's that serious, but it is darker.
Yeah,
that is true. I just think that Super's issues was that, in my opinion, the stories didn't feel like stories where you had like a roller coaster of emotions. When you read the manga, right, or when you watch the old anime, like the Cell Saga, Trunks shows up. It's a mystery. You find out about the androids. Oh, wait, it's the wrong androids. Then the real androids wake up. Then all of a sudden there's a new mystery. They find an egg. Oh, it's Cell. So the story keeps throwing shit at you. The story keeps like molding and changing. Super storytelling was so simple, and you never really got an arc like that until Moro. I think Moro is the most Dragon Ball Z-esque arc that Super ever did.
Yeah. I think I can understand to a degree where he's coming from. Like, even if you look back at GT, the two arcs there that come to mind would be the Super 17. Oh, sorry, the Baby arc and the Evil Dragon arc. Those arcs are far darker in tone and far more serious. The stakes feel more serious than a lot of what happens in Super. So I can kind of understand. Yeah.
Right.
Like where do you see? Remember when the 1-star dragon, Omega Shenron, if you want to call him that, was beating on Goku in his Super Saiyan 4 form. He's like punching him in the stomach and blood's coming out of his mouth. Like, I know that's censorship, but you don't see that sort of stuff in Super.
Yeah, Super was way more toned down with the gore.
Or when the 1-star dragon impales Vegeta's shoulder with his spike and there's a giant hole in his shoulder. Like, you don't see that stuff in Super. So
no, same thing with Z, bro. When Frieza impaled Krillin, no, Z was definitely Dragon Ball Z GT were definitely more violent, but that's because of the TV standards back then.
Yeah.
So, all right, Zebek Carl Stephanie says, off topic. If Vegeta, this is a good question for you, bro. If Vegeta trained with Beerus instead of the Yardrats to learn Hakai and then shot Hakai at Moro, would he have swallowed it? Pause. Or would just laugh at him saying swallowed it, pause. Or would he have known about it and tried to avoid it since he's pretty old? I don't know if he knew about it or not, but I don't think that if Vegeta did the proper Hakai that Beerus did to to Zamasu, I don't think that can be blocked. I think
Yeah, I
you
don't
moved
know.
out of the way, or you're dead. What do you think?
I don't know. It's a tough one because we saw like Sidra's still. I don't really like when people say, "Oh, Frieza was only able to stop the Hakai energy because it was, a small portion from Sidra and it wasn't from Beerus." Like I feel like Hakai energy, if it's used by a God of Destruction, is pretty powerful. If anything, that henchman was the reason that Frieza was able to get out of it because it wasn't used by a God of Destruction. So I feel like, yeah, I don't know. Hakai is pretty powerful. I think the only reason Frieza survived Hakai is because some weak henchman used it on him. Uh, it's tough to say though. I really don't know. I feel like either way they would have written Vegeta out of the story, and what I mean by that is he would have used Hakai in some way, would have been written for Moro to escape it or survive it because Goku's got to come in and save the day in that arc. Um, that's what probably would have happened. Vegeta would have Hakai energy. He would have used it on Moro, and Moro, some bullshit or ass pull would have made Moro survive. That's my take on it.
You've accepted your fate that Vegeta will
Yeah,
always be in
yeah,
second
always be
place.
second. He'll always be. But hey, it's not a bad place when you think about it. He's really the only one. I know you've got Gohan now, who's
You
pretty
got go
powerful.
on now. Yeah.
Gohan Beast, but how long will Gohan Beast be relevant for? I feel like it's like a moment in time of fan service for Gohan fans. I don't feel like he's just had the superhero arc where he's just beat Cell Max. I don't feel like Gohan's going to be getting any shine anytime soon. I feel like it's going to go straight back to being Goku and Vegeta show again after that, especially with Black Frieza.
Yeah, I mean they gave him a lot of shine in those 3 chapters that came out
Mm.
after the TOP, the one right before Toriyama passed away.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the thing is that we're in such a drought right now, man, that when you say like Gohan just got blah blah blah, you realize that superhero was 3
3 years
years
ago.
ago.
Oh, I realize. But
What
that's
the
also the most
fuck?
recent, dude. That's the most recent. So when I say just got it, that's because in a Dragon Ball sense, that's the most recent thing. So
That's crazy. It's July, bro. It's July 4th. We are 1 month away from the 3-year anniversary of the Black Frieza appearance.
yeah,
And we still don't know anything about what's going to happen with Gohan or like there's just
I,
nothing because Daima
I
was earlier in the timeline.
I actually have a theory about this. Is my theory. Easily can be proven wrong in the future, but mark timestamp it down today's date. I'm saying this and I'm predicting it. Maybe someone else has
July
thought.
4th. Don't say Mira and Toa because you were
No,
wrong on that one,
no,
bro.
I think there's a triangle going on there. Broly doesn't factor into it. Broly's a side thing, and he's going to be cool, but he's not a part of the triangle. The triangle for me is Gohan Beast beats Ultra Instinct Goku, just on raw power. Raw power. Ultra
Okay.
Instinct Goku wears Vegeta's Ultra Ego out because he can just dodge damage, and he'll just outlast Vegeta from a stamina standpoint. Ultra Ego beats Beast because it can absorb damage, and Beast just outputs raw damage and power. So Vegeta would absorb that damage and get stronger. That's a fun little theory. I'm not saying it's true. It's a theory. I think it'd be pretty cool if there's like a little triangle there, kind of like the old Pokemon days, how fire beats grass,
paper,
grass beats
scissors.
water. Yeah, grass beats water, water beats fire. I feel like Beast beats Ultra Instinct beats Ultra Ego, and Ultra Ego beats Beast. That's a fun little theory.
That's rock, paper, scissors, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Scissors cuts paper, paper covers rock, rock smashes scissors. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I would love it just from my own point of view if we did get an Ultra Ego Vegeta versus Gohan Beast fight, just because whoever wins or loses the fight, the other side is going to melt down, bro. Like the Vegeta, bro, if Gohan kicks Vegeta's ass, they're going to be fucking losing it. And if Vegeta kicks Gohan's ass, a whole other group of fans are going to be losing
You know what? I actually wouldn't lose it. I'll tell you why. Because how many times have you
You're
heard?
also a grown ass man, too.
Yeah, but how many times have you heard Vegeta say that Gohan's the strongest if he actually takes things seriously and trains? Vegeta's said like 3 or 4 different times Gohan's got the most potential if he trains and if he actually applies
Goku
himself.
says it too.
Yeah. So how can you be mad at that when it's been foreshadowed for like the last God knows how many years, you know?
It's since the beginning of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Since he was introduced.
Yeah,
because
oh,
like
memory. Yeah, when he had the color palette swap and he was talking to Nappa, he says a line in the Japanese dub, not in the English dub, in the original Japanese dub. He says something about hybrid sayings having the most potential. All the way back in like that episode. I think that was like
Dragon Ball
episode 4 or 5.
5, Dragon Ball
5,
Z
yeah.
episode 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. Like from the very beginning, they established that Gohan. Because like one of the things that's silly to me, and I've seen so-called Dragon Ball experts fuck up this, is when somebody shows a picture of Kid Goku from Dragon Ball and Kid Gohan from the beginning of Z, and they say who is stronger, and people pick Kid Goku. You have to be a fucking moron to think that Kid Goku is stronger than Kid Gohan. Because in Dragon Ball Z, during the fight with Raditz, when Goku is a fully grown adult in his 20s, Gohan has already surpassed him. Because when the scouter goes off, Gohan's power level reads higher than Goku's, which means by default, because Goku's stronger in Z than he was in Dragon Ball, that Kid Gohan would mollywop Kid Goku.
Unless you're
But
saying
he doesn't know how to fight, though.
Yeah, who has better control over their ki?
Yeah, not combat, but like power-wise.
Yeah, who has better control over their abilities and ki? Goku. Who's stronger? Gohan.
Yeah, but like by leaps and bounds, because Goku in the tournament against Piccolo, in 23rd tournament was way more powerful than any previous Goku.
Yeah,
when he was 18.
Yeah,
like
that's an extremely underrated fight. Like it's worth watching. Let's just say you hate.
That's the best fight in the series.
Let's just say you hate watching Dragon Ball, right? Like you don't enjoy it. I feel like the 20.
Weird.
I feel like I know, but there's people out there who are like, oh, I don't like Dragon. I feel like watching Dragon Ball is worth it just to get up to the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. I really feel, honestly, it's so good. There's so many good fights in that. Tao Pai Pai versus Ten Shinhan. Great. That's a great moment.
No, dude.
Even Piccolo versus Krillin's a great fight. Even though it's a short fight, Piccolo versus Krillin's a great fight, man.
That's my favorite arc in the entire series, bro. It's the best arc.
Yes, so good. Yeah. And that like honestly, 23rd Tenkai, I think I've said this before. 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai into the Saiyan arc, into the Namek arc is like peak Dragon Ball. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, then you start to see some cracks in the Cell Saga, even though a lot of people love the Cell Saga, and I do too. I mean, I like it too. Yeah. Storytelling wise, it does have some cracks. All right, Xavier says they can't do better than the first Cooler movie.
That's not a bad movie.
No, I like that movie a lot, but I'm sure they could do better if they really like focused.
Yeah.
Airdog 711 said, "What happened to the timeline Goku Black was from? That's the Trunks timeline. It was destroyed by Zeno at the end of
maybe he means the I don't know, like Goku Black. There was two Zamasus. Obviously, there was a Zamasu where he went to a timeline where he killed Gawasu in front of Zamasu and then recruited him. There's that timeline. But every time something like that happened, a new time ring was created, wasn't it? So, it was all these different. It became very convoluted. There was like 6 or 7 different time rings in that box by the end of the arc.
I think it started with 4, and then it wound up being
Trunks created some of those. Trunks created some of those when he started traveling back in time.
Well, but remember, the manga version said that there was a time traveler from Universe 12, and we never found out who that was. You remember the Universe 12 thing?
Yeah, I kind of forgot about it, but yeah.
Bro, there are so many unfinished plot threads from Super, dude. We're sitting here with our dicks in our hand, right? Black Frieza, there's so much.
Universe 6, Vegeta going to Universe 6.
Oh yeah, that's another
what happened to see the king of the Saiyans there. Yep.
Yeah. Frieza wanting to do a counterattack. Frieza taking the 2 heaters with him. Like we don't know where that's going. Like fuck, man, there was a lot. Okay, let me move on here. Raul Rajkumar says, "Do you ever think Gohan and Broly will fuse?" I
Ah,
I don't know,
Gohan
man.
and Broly.
I don't think so, but anything can happen.
Yeah,
Anything can happen.
I don't think so. I think they'll find a use for Broly. I think Broly personally, what will happen is speculation, obviously. I think Broly will be built up and he'll have a cool moment against Black Frieza, but I think he'll be fodder. I think he'll be the first one to go down, and I feel like it'll come down to. I feel like Black Frieza will be beaten by possibly maybe all four. Maybe Broly
Should
will
be
help.
everyone jumping him, yeah.
Maybe it will take all four of them, but I feel like Broly's going to be the fodder, and I feel like because he's still learning to control himself. I feel like the trio will take on Black Frieza, and I think they'll beat him together.
Do you think Broly's gonna die in that fight?
I don't know. I don't think he'll die, but I think he'll be the one to take the L. Like sometimes Vegeta takes the L or Goku takes the L. I feel like it'll be Broly will take the L, and the three of them will beat Frieza together. And I think that'll keep most of the fans happy because Broly will still get shine, and then Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan will all get their moment against Frieza as well.
You say that, and I agree with you, but I know people who really, really like Broly. Like really, to the point where it doesn't really make much sense, to be honest with you.
Let's be real though, right? From a storytelling standpoint, it only makes sense for either Goku or Vegeta to beat Frieza in the
Of
Frieza
course.
It only makes sense. Only for Goku or Vegeta to do it. If anything, Vegeta makes more sense by this stage, but even Goku makes more sense because they got such a long history.
I've been saying from the very beginning that Vegeta is going to be the one to finish off Frieza eventually. It'll be him finally.
I don't feel like it'll
be one thing they have in their back pocket.
I don't feel like it'll be alone though. I feel like he's going to need help.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying alone, but I think he ends up doing that final Hakai and game over. That's my guess, though.
That'd be poetry in a way because once he's been Hakai'd by Vegeta, he can't come back. You can't wish him back anymore. That's it. He's gone.
That's what I'm saying. That's at the very end of the story, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got a couple more here. Okay. Toad Sage says, or Sage, I don't know. DBS is overhated. It definitely isn't perfect, but with the way some people talk about it, you'd think it was a 2 to 3 out of 10 when it's more like a 6.5 to 7. You know, that's one of those things where I guess it depends on your community, because I'll be honest, most of the time I see positive comments for Super. Yeah. Like most of the comments I see are, I'm not saying that it's, the people obviously aren't that into it the way it was when it first came out, now that some time has passed, but I don't see that much hate for Super. I just think that, and I've said it before, I hate Super when compared to the old shit. Yeah, the old shit is so much better, but it doesn't mean that the show has no value.
Yeah, I could agree with like a solid 6.5 out of 10. I think 7 or 8, you're kind of pushing it because there's too many flaws in Super, but I could definitely agree. Yeah, I could see a 6.5 out of 10. That's not a bad score. That's still a pass. But
let me ask you a question. If you take out the first 2 retellings and you start with the Champa arc, is it still 6.5 out of 10? Or is it like
maybe like a 7 or a 7.5 because there's still so many plot holes in the Goku Black arc, and there's just like I feel like, okay, to answer your question, the score goes up to like a 7 or a 7.5, but the reason it still stays down is simply because of the Goku Black arc. That arc by itself has so many like things that, like the Ikari transformation, the Trunks raid, that you never see that.
We never got an explanation. Yeah, nothing.
The Genki Dama sword, I guess you can give it a pass, but how is there enough energy in the Genki Dama sword to destroy Zamasu? Like, there's so many. Like, the time
4 people alive on Earth, right?
Yeah, I know two of the people that give energy is Goku and Vegeta, and they're really powerful. But like the whole time rings and different timelines that were created by Trunks and Goku Black traveling, that's never explained. Like, it's It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. So I feel like the Goku Black Arc by itself brings down the series score even without the first 2 arcs.
But that gave us the return of Vegito with the wrong gi, by the way.
Well, Vegito.
Everybody went nuts when Vegito came back.
Yeah, you see what annoys me about Fusion, right? Fusion with the Patara or with the dance, the Fusion dance,
the Metamoran, yeah.
Yeah, they pick and choose when it can last half an hour. That's what really annoys me. Like, like you look at Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, insanely powerful. He lasts like 10, 15 minutes of in showtime. In reality in the show, he lasts like 5, 10 minutes. But then against Broly, he lasts the whole fucking fight. And then Vegito lasts for the entire fight against Super Buu until he's absorbed. But then against Zamasu, he's too powerful now. He lasts 5 minutes. Like, that annoys me.
Then they've done it too many times. Like, here's the fusion. Wait, no, even Gogeta against the Dragon in GT.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so powerful, but then we didn't finish him off in time. They redo that so much, and it does feel very lazy.
The most badass Vegito and Gogeta have ever looked was their first introductions in the movie where he kills Janempa in 2 minutes flat, not even 2 minutes, like in a minute flat. Looks awesome there. That's the best way Gogeta's ever been done. And then when Vegito first fought Super Buu before he went all silly and got absorbed, those were the 2 moments that were executed the best. I feel like Gogeta in Broly was still executed well, but he has like an element of comedy to him. I felt they leaned on the GT Gogeta a little bit because you can tell in Broly he's got more of a comedic side. Look at how serious Gogeta was in the Janempa movie. It's not consistent, you know?
Well, Gogeta was pretty serious against Broly, but there were a couple of moments of fun. What I still don't understand, and boy, do I really not understand it, is why Gogeta let Frieza live, bro. That part still, I don't get it, bro. And don't even sit there and be like, oh, Goku. No, Gogeta is also Vegeta. Yeah. Goku's only part of it.
I guess
Frieza's the one that caused all those problems.
I guess to use the line from GT, there's a line, it's in the sub and the dub, where Vegeta's getting agitated that they didn't finish off the 1-star dragon because they were clowning around, and Goku just says, well, that's just how we act as a single being, because that's what fusion is. It's 2 beings becoming one. So when you take the sum of their parts and put them together, that's just how they behave. So
you're bringing up GT a lot, bro. Did you watch it recently?
I'm watching it with my partner right now, and it's bringing up a lot of comparisons to Daima and to Super in terms of, like I said, you learn to appreciate things. Like, I appreciate Super more now than I did in 2018. I appreciate GT more now that Daima's come out. I don't dislike Daima, but Daima also highlighted that there's a lot that GT does really well that it doesn't get credit for.
I agree with you. I think it is a good time for people to go back and revisit GT now and see how they feel about it. Big Hairy Knots, what arc would you reveal SSJB and Kaioken Blue? They got revealed already, but I don't know if he means like if I was writing the story.
Right.
I don't know. I don't really have a problem the way they were revealed. Jay, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I feel like Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken, I feel like it was always a bit of a, it didn't make any sense, because Blue was supposed to be tranquil, it's supposed to have good energy control, and yet Kaioken wears you out.
The opposite, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And I remember when in the Tournament of Power, Goku was using that and Vegeta was using his Blue Evolved. And then the writers came out and said, like, several months after the episode aired, oh, that was Vegeta's equivalent to Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 20. And I was like, I made a video on it. It's still on my channel saying that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that. And I'll tell you why, because as a concept, Vegeta's Super Saiyan Blue evolution form was shown to have much more, it was just a more durable form. The dude blew himself up against Topo and was still able to fight Jiren with 17 and Goku. So, yeah, I don't like the concept of Blue Kaioken. I thought it was a silly idea. It looks cool, silly idea. So I don't really care where they introduced it. I remember thinking in the hit fight, it was an ass pull. In hindsight, it's cool and I enjoy watching it, but it's still an ass pull to me.
It was, and it was like the first like truly hype moment post movie retelling. So I think people remember it fondly, but
Yeah.
I do agree with you that it could have done it.
I just remember Masako Nozawa's scream when she was screaming out the Kaioken times 10 and then attacked hit. That was awesome.
And even Schemmel did really good for the dub. Yeah,
I
he did.
just bring up Nozawa because that was my earliest memory of watching that fight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean those were good times. Those were great times.
Yeah.
Speed Punch says the only way to beat Black Frieza is Goku and Vegeta fuse into Gogeta and Gohan and Broly use the Potara. Well, I don't. If Goku and Vegeta fuse into Gogeta, that might already be enough. Just that. I don't think they even need Gohan and Broly to fuse because Ultra Gogeta with ego and instinct inside of him. I mean, I did a video about it called The Strongest Fusion in History, and it's all about how strong that would be. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Really fucking strong, because that's like taking all the angel powers and God destruction powers and putting it into one being.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I feel like if Goku and Vegeta fused with Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct, this is my take on it. I feel like they'd be able to kill any of the gods and kill any of the angels. That's just my take on it.
Really, including the Grand Prix? Because that's the one where I would be a little skeptical.
So. I'm talking about when they are at their finality, when Goku has completely mastered Ultra Instinct and Vegeta has completely mastered Ultra Ego. I feel like by that point, if they fuse, they'd be able to kill anyone, except for Zeno, maybe, because Zeno can just zap them out of existence.
I would agree with you, except for Grand Priest. That's the one where I'm a little like, I don't know, because they really hyped that dude up.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the dad of all the angels, right? Theacid Complex. In chapter 103 of Super, A Legacy Toward Future, when Goku is sparring with Gohan, towards the end of the spar, Goku says, honestly, I can rest easy knowing that the Earth can be safe when I'm gone. I believe this has significance. He said something similar, though. He said something similar when Cell was killed and Gohan kind of became the lead then. Unless what you're talking about, because I've seen some people take that line and try to say that it was Toriyama, like sort of passing the torch to Toyotaro and saying the line is like meta, but I don't think it's that deep. I just think that Goku's impressed with Gohan, but it is almost word for word the same thing he said in the Cell Saga.
Yeah.
Like, the Earth is safe without me. Gohan's there. I'll be all right.
Yeah, and I think it's also in a way, Goku's obviously been filled in the stuff that happened on Earth with Cell Max showing up and Gohan beating Cell Max. It could also just be Goku acknowledging that hey, I wasn't there when Cell Max was there, and you were able to stop him without me. And
that's right.
It could also just be Goku acknowledging that too.
And acknowledging that Gohan is as strong, if not stronger. So that means if you have somebody that strong on Earth, who's gonna fuck with them? Like, very few people can. Black Frieza could. Maybe we'll see him throw hands. I don't know.
I don't get why people compare Black Frieza to Gohan Beast. So, like, Gohan Beast could beat Black Frieza. I feel like it's been shown that how easily Frieza shows up.
I know why, Jay, because both happen at the same time. Remember,
I know, but
the movie came out. The movie and the arc, and then the movie and the form came out right around the same time.
I get that, but the way Frieza shows up and just absolutely one shots Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct Goku, I'm sorry, Gohan can't do that.
I don't think he can either.
No, Gohan Beast can't do that. So I don't get the comparison. So yeah, that's just my take on it.
And also, don't forget that Goku and Vegeta, after Superhero or right around Superhero, are a bit stronger than they were during the Granola arc, because they were still training. They don't tell us how much stronger. We don't get that kind of clarity, but you know, we never do, bro. Nightmare Trooper. We only have a few more, and we're gonna get out of here. I actually didn't expect as many super chats. I do have to be somewhere at 8, so we're gonna get out of here shortly. Let me get this from Nightmare Trooper. He says, "Hey guys, 2 months ago I met Ryo Horikawa and Chris Sabat for the second time at MomoCon 2025. I got both photos and autographs to honor my late older brother. I have no regrets meeting them." You shouldn't. In fact, not only is that not a regret, that's a highlight of your life, bro, because getting to meet both those guys and getting pictures with them, you should be putting those pictures on your wall and shit.
Yeah.
Because that's a very big accomplishment, and it's going to honor your brother, and you got to meet Ryo Horikawa. Anytime you get to meet one of the Japanese, it's a huge, huge deal because they don't live here. They only come here once a year sometimes, Jay.
Yeah, I've only met Chris Sabat myself, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. That's awesome.
You need to meet Horikawa, bro. Next time they do a con down there and Horikawa goes, you need to meet him because that's your boy. That's Vegeta.
Yeah. I just want to say too, and I'm not speaking out of turn. This is actually praising Sean. Sean used to get so much hate online for being like short-tempered and rude. And I was like, dude, I've met Sean. Sean is so down to earth and chill if you're nice and respectful. Like, I've met Sean as well. Sean is such a chill dude and so nice. I feel like he used to get way too much hate for how, you know, how people have said he's rude or he's short-tempered with some people online. But there's a lot of
been that way with me.
Yeah, people forget how many like idiots there are on the internet. Like, I used to get agitated with people on the internet, man.
I still do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still do, but
like, you remember when Sean was voicing doing his version of Goku Black and people were being disrespectful to Sean, and I was like, dude, he did a really good job of Goku Black.
He also had trouble with it because he wasn't sure what kind of voice to do because they recorded those early Goku Black lines for the game ahead of time, and then he started to change them, and then he had to match what the Zamasu voice actor is, James Marston or whatever. Him. So he did explain that in the past. Yeah. Wisco Dipper says, 96 says, I'm kind of glad Funimation and Faulconer Productions parted ways in 2002. Could you imagine if they fuck with the Yu Yu Hakusho music? Well, when Yu Yu Hakusho was being dubbed, Faulconer, I think, was still there. Faulconer was only hired to do Dragon Ball Z. So, because for some reason, Dragon Ball Z was the only anime Funimation had where they had to change everything. I don't know why, but Dragon Ball Z is always the one that got treated like that. And it's kind of bullshit because Yu Yu Hakusho was the opposite. Gaming Hub UK says, given that Goku as a character has a never-ending journey as a martial artist, given learning never stops, what do you two think should be the definitive end for him in the story as a martial artist? I think he needs to become a master and not fight anymore and train other people when he's much older. When he's like older. What do you think?
Yeah, they could do the thing where he has Toriyama's illustration where he has gray hair and a beard, you know, once he reaches
mustache.
Once he reaches the age where Saiyans start aging. I do like as well, again, bringing up GT, the whole omnipotent side to Goku, how he becomes one with Shenron, and he basically becomes, you know, everlasting and he never dies.
He ascends into godhood.
Yeah, that was amazing. That's true godhood, man. I know that they've got God Key and Super, but that's like true godhood. He's like omnipotent. He can't die, you know. So yeah, like that was pretty cool ending. I think that's a really underappreciated ending, but obviously I know they won't reuse that.
But you say underappreciated, and I see where you're coming from. But dude, I have talked to a lot of people who say that's their favorite ending. Like of all the shows, Dragon Ball, Z, GT, Super, they say that's the best ending. I mean, it is powerful as shit.
Yeah.
Very
when
emotional.
I say because GT I think is underappreciated, that the ending gets lost on a lot of people. Like that ending it that ending almost doesn't exist to them. So
Right. No, you're right about that. If you haven't seen GT, it wouldn't exist to you. So that makes sense. All right. 0x0 says, do you have any recommendations if you are trying to buy all 42 volumes of the original Dragon Ball manga that isn't censored? Well, unfortunately, here's the issue, bro. If you want to buy all 42 volumes of the manga uncensored, you're going to have to buy it in Japanese because all of the Viz releases out now have censorship. Either the guns have been turned into laser guns or Bulma's nipples have been covered under a bra. That's the problem, is there is no official uncensored manga release from Viz. Now, completely. Now, you can always download on the internet. You can download the manga Japanese translated,
full color as well.
Full color as well, translated. You can have it digital, but if you want the physical copies, bro, you're gonna have to get the Japanese. Because up there in my shelf, at the very top, I have the Kanzen bonds, which is the Japanese perfect editions, and then at the bottom, I have the Viz Big. So I can read it in English, but I have the Japanese, so I can see everything uncut. Now, I will say this: there's not that much to censor. Mr. Popo's lips are smaller, which I think is weird. That is distracting. Bulma's titties, stuff like that. But it's not like you see that much nudity in Dragon Ball or anything like that. Like,
I have the Viz box sets for Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, the big box sets, with all the individual volumes in them. But yeah, on my computer, I have Ball all the way through to the end of Super and Z with full color translated from Japanese, and that's not censored at all. I'm just letting my dog out. I'm walking 5 meters and coming straight back.
All right. No, it's fine, bro. I got to see if I can wrap this up because I'm still getting super chats. You do not submit any more super chats because I got to be somewhere at 8 and I don't want to miss the opportunity. 0x Zach, favorite design for Baby Vegeta. Baby Vegeta, well, grade 8 Baby Vegeta is my favorite because I like Golden Grade 8. What about you?
I think Super Baby 2 is pretty cool. That's what the fandom calls him. Yeah, Super Baby 2, where he's got the
he's actually called that in the GT Perfect files. I did not think that till I actually got a hold of him.
I've got the GT Perfect files. I didn't realize how small they are until you get them in your hands. They're tiny because they look like massive books online, but they're tiny little books.
Because the Daizenshu's are like this big,
really big.
They're tiny.
Yeah, but I haven't read my Perfect files. I've still got them sealed. I've got one still in their original shrink wrap, so I haven't opened my Perfect files. Therefore, I wouldn't know that they were called that in the Perfect files.
Well, it's in Japanese anyways. So.
Yeah, probably Super Baby 2. Yeah,
I like that a lot too. The big shoulder things.
Yeah.
All right. Robert Wolf said, "Sorry to beat a dead horse, but why does Super's issues get so much crap, but all of Daima's plot holes and bad creative decisions get crickets?" Yet that's you, brother. I've seen a lot of people criticize Super and Daima, including me. I don't know who you're talking to. You have to look at your own community and try looking outside of it, because I've seen a lot of folks criticize Daima.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I do agree that people have given Daima a bit of a break in that it was Toriyama's last project while he was alive, but it's still like, I will agree that that's probably a reason as to why people feel a certain type of way about it, but I still see the criticism, so it's not like it's not there.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Just believe whatever you want to believe, dude. Don't let anybody influence you, except me. You can let me do it. No. The King Markel says Dragon Ball and Z should get a revamp in the same way Hunter x Hunter did, with the style of superheroes recap at the beginning of the film. Yeah, a lot of people have said that they want Kubota to do it, but It ain't gonna be one guy doing it, bro, because one guy can't. I think someday that'll happen.
Yeah.
So Bobby Moore says, "Love baby Vegeta." I don't know why there are so many spaces in between that. I don't know. Anyways, Robert Wolf says it may have been his last project, but it was his worst idea. I don't know about that. I kind of disagree with you about that, but I'm letting you know that people do give Daima a pass because of that.
All they had to
And
do really for Daima was just say, oh, I can't use this form anymore because Never's magic's worn off, and they probably shouldn't have introduced the fusion bugs. If they didn't do those two things, I think that the show would have got a complete pass.
well, yeah, I agree, but he's talking about just them becoming kids again and all that.
Look, I think that was executed fine. There was nothing wrong with that. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
I feel bad for this guy, bro. He says I'm never watching DB or DBZ again. That's too bad for you, bro. I like those fucking shows.
That's your choice.
Yeah. This guy, he's saying that Daima felt like a slap in the face. I don't see how, bro. You don't have to apologize for your opinion, but you're taking Daima pretty serious. It's 20 episodes, bro. Daima didn't hurt you. All right. Like, nobody's saying you have to like it. Nobody's saying you don't. We have Dragon Ball. We have Dragon Ball Z. If you don't want to watch the modern shit, watch the old shit. Like I've said a gazillion times, the old shit is better.
It's so divided. It's so divided. There's so many people who watch Ball Z and GT, or just Ball and Z, and then there's people who don't watch GT and just watch Ball Z and Super. Like, it's such a divided fandom. Like,
well, sometimes, yeah, but like to me, if you don't like modern Dragon Ball, if your issues, because here's the thing, Jay, I think looking back, and we'll close out with this. I think looking back in the past 10 years, I do believe that even though Super and Daima have their pros and cons, right? I think ultimately they were both disappointments. I think, and not because they were horrible or anything like that, but I think Super and Daima were disappointments because I think we as fans, and I'm talking about all of us, we had so many expectations set so high because of the way the old shit was, that I think we believed that the new shit was going to be like the old shit and give us those warm feelings that the old shit gave us.
Yeah.
And it never happened, with the exception of like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So I do think that ultimately that the modern Dragon Ball was a disappointment. They can still turn the ship around, but I think ultimately, again, not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that people, I think, thought it was going to be better than it actually was.
Yeah.
You know? I hear the dogs, bro.
Yeah, I let her out because she needed to go to the toilet, and that's what she does. That's why I don't let her out.
Well, did she finish in the toilet?
I think so, but I'm not going back out there to get her. It's a big property. So,
well, we're gonna finish, bro, because I gotta be somewhere. But first of all, thanks for hanging out, man. I've known you now for 10 years, and there's been a lot of changes in our lives, but I'm glad we can still get together. I mean, it's the thing I like about you is you're a real deal motherfucker. I think some of the people I made friends with in the fandom are like terminally online weirdos, and I'm not friends with a lot of them anymore. And I think a big reason as to why is because of that, because I think they just live on the internet,
yeah,
and they don't have real lives. And I think when you only live on the internet and you don't have a real life, that's dangerous.
it
I
is.
think it makes you a certain kind of way. So, because you don't view people as people, you
Well, not
view
only
them as a screen name. You know what I mean?
you also can't develop the skills to deal with people and to talk to people unless you're seeing people in person. You got to get out there in the real world and live your life, you know? So
I agree. I agree with that. But that I think that's why it's worked out, bro. But hopefully we'll see you soon, man. If anything drops, or if I come up with an idea for you to come back, or if you have an idea, let me know and we'll do it.
Yeah, I'll do some brainstorming and see if I can come up with some content ideas. But yeah, a lot of the time when I don't upload, it's just time. I don't have the time, or I haven't got the, like I said, the inspiration strikes when you make a video because you're like, oh, that's a cool topic. I want to talk about that. And you're really passionate about talking about it. So unless I come up with something I'm passionate about talking about, I don't do a video. But
Well,
yeah,
and also you have a full-time job and you're in a relationship, so I
yeah,
mean,
it makes it harder. But I will definitely think of some topics we can possibly talk about. But hopefully they release some news soon. That would be nice.
we'll see. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Twitch, twitch.tv/Big D Geekdom 101. We're watching Dragon Ball Z episode 63, 64, and 65, which is
On
the
Planet Namek.
Ginyu. Yeah, the Ginyu battle. Raccoon smashing everybody to bits. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. Vegeta being a fucking badass. Gohan fighting for his life. And then Papa Goku showing up at the end. Those episodes are so awesome, bro.
Good. I love the sub. Love the sub. One thing I will say is I love Raccoon in the dub though. In Kai or the original dub, how he's like, whoa, like he acts like a fucking idiot.
He's fucking hilarious.
When Vegeta fires the blast at him and he just goes, hi. I love. He's hilarious in the dub.
Somebody asked me yesterday. They were like, "Is there anything salvageable about the Z dub?" And I said, "Yeah, it's funny. That's about it."
Yeah,
It's got some funny moments.
I think just like everyone has to watch the sub once if they love the English dub and they truly respect the English voice actors' opinions on their work, they will tell you go and watch Kai because Kai is a fantastic dub. I always say that. You got to put your bias aside about Stephanie Nadolny. I'm not shitting on her. She's great too. She's a great voice actor. I'm talking about if you got to put your bias aside and just enjoy it for what it is. It's a better dub. Like it is arguably a better dub.
Yeah, well, she came back to Dragon Ball and did a phenomenal job with Daima.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show if you have a good script, you know.
Yeah. And for me, Tiffany, Volma, and Monica Rial don't sound that different as Bulma. So I don't really see, apart from Gohan, what voice changes you have to get used to, in my opinion. Colleen,
I like Tiffany's a lot, though. You know what I mean? Like, she's,
I don't have a problem with 18 from the original Z dub, but I think the Colleen, Meredith does a great job. And she's back in obviously Battle of Gods onwards, but I think Colleen does a very feminine 18. That's what I mean. Apart from getting used to Gohan being voiced by Colleen, you don't really have any voice changes to get used to. Frieza is fantastic. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Chris Ayres' Frieza. Rest in peace.
I don't think you can, bro. Because it was just that was like a perfect performance.
Yeah,
like he nailed it. Anyways, I'm out. Jay's out. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll see you soon. Take care. And remember what I say. Be there tomorrow. And remember what I always say. Take care of yourself and each other.